Hello everyone, welcome to episode 59 of FPL BlackBox. No Mark today, but my God have we got a good replacement. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, he is in a full suit. He's made the most effort any guest we've had on BlackBox ever made before. It's FPL Focal himself, Oscar, world number 26. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Honour to be here. Long time follower of the show, so I always try to tune in when I can. But yeah, for the audio listeners, I'm dressed sharp. You could argue I'm overdressed, but if anything, I think you're underdressed, mate.
I know. I do feel a bit bad. You did tease me yesterday, saying you were going to wear the suit that's in the picture on the thumbnail. And if I'm being honest, I didn't believe you. I didn't. And then
I'm a man of my word.
You are, and you've turned up, and yeah, you look fantastic. So, good effort. So world number 26. I caught you a bit of a bad time though. You're on a bit of a slump. I mean, you've gone up 2 places in the rankings this week already, but you were world number 2. You're now number 26. You've still got to be pretty delighted with how things are going, right?
Yeah, I've got to have some perspective there. It's been a good season. At one point, I think last time we spoke, it was on Scout, and at the time I was second. I spent a couple of game weeks in first, but some poor decision making since then, and I find myself somehow on a green arrow to 26th, but I'm on 28 points.
Yeah.
King captain left.
Well, let's take a look at your game week 23 score. It is the longest game week I can ever remember. It feels like it's like an end of season break and we're waiting for the next week. And I think adding in this extra game of Watford v Burnley it's not exactly the most exciting game to be going into, is it? Particularly if you're Dennis captainer. But yeah, you're on 28 points. Your team is Ramsdale, Trent, Cancelo, Alonso. You've got Damari Gray in there, Jota, Bowen, Rafinha, and then King, Dennis, and Calvert-Lewin. But on your bench, you have Salah, and you've kept him.
Mention the bench, yeah.
Well, your other 2 players are Dawson, Livramento, and De Gea. We don't need to mention them too much. But you've kept Salah all this time. You must be fuming that Egypt have got to the semi-final.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, that was one of the poorest decisions of the season. I think probably the reason that I've dropped rank a bit, because of course, in hindsight, it was so obvious to sell Salah for Bruno. The earliest opportunity I had was last game week for the double game week, so I figured maybe I could get away with keeping Alderman for a couple of game weeks because I'd spend a transfer selling him, and then I'll spend a transfer to get him back in. But totally got that one wrong. Bruno's absolutely butchered me, and now I'm wondering, do I bring him in for double game week 25? I think I probably will.
So you'd be selling Salah for Fernandes, even though Salah's coming back imminently.
Well, luckily I've got a 5.2 in the bank, so I've got plenty to work with. So I'm thinking maybe I'll end up selling Rafinha. Maybe not this week. It depends if there's a price rise for Bruno or not. But I've got exact money as it stands to sell Rafinha to Bruno, so I think I might be priced out that one.
Yeah, that's a bit tempting. I mean, the good news for you was you did captain King over Dennis. Were you tempted? I mean, I would have gone for, if I'd had both, I would have gone for Dennis, I think. How come you stuck with King?
Yeah, well, I'm more of a stats guy, and obviously King had the good underlying stats, so I've purely just backed the stats there more than anything. Dennis has obviously been doing better over the course of the season, but I went with King purely on the stats. I got baited in by the double game week, did get Dennis in. Like I said, luckily I didn't captain him, that could have been worse. But yeah, there was a video going around, you've probably seen it from the FPL meetup, where we met up in London, and the Watford game was on that night. And in the video, there's some people, jumping around celebrating because they didn't get Dennis. And then there's a few others like FPL Harry, head in hands, can't believe that they've brought Dennis in. And I'm in the background, like this.
It's an iconic photo of FPL Harry, I think, just looking. Yeah. I think it captures it perfectly because it's like pure frustration, but also he's smiling at the same time because it's such a ridiculous thing to happen.
It was, yeah. We couldn't help but laugh.
It was pretty good. I was there. I was at a meet-up in London when Mbomo scored that penalty. And that was the same thing. 3 of us jumping around, dancing, celebrating, and then a few people just like, oh, for God's sake, not anyone, anyone but him.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what it's like. I mean, 28 is probably around the average, right? How much do you check kind of what everyone else is doing around you, sort of in the top 50? I mean, you're on the first page of the FPL standings, for God's sake. Surely you must. I think I'd have them all bookmarked just to see what moves are being made and all that. Do you do all that? Are you kind of obsessing a bit?
Yeah, well, I try not to pay much attention. I don't think it's the right way to play it. 5 game weeks from now, I could drop off and be, much further down, or likewise, those who are near me now could drop down. So I'm not paying too much attention to those ranked around me. But yeah, we'll see. Long way to go.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll be able to give you some top tips going forward. I mean, I don't want to tell you, if I accidentally advise you on anything, just ignore me. Keep doing your own thing. You're doing amazingly well, having a fantastic season, and I'm sure.
I'll be honest, you need a lot of luck as well to break top 100. So
you do. Oh, imagine that. You go full time FPL when you finish in the top 100 in your first season. You can't tank now,
dream, yeah.
Oscar. You can't tank now.
No pressure.
Just quickly cover my game week. I'm having a pretty good week actually. I bought in Dean, which paid off straight away. Yeah, I know. 45 points for me. Ramsdale in goal. Trent, Cancelo, Dean, Fernandes, your mate, Foden, Jota, Bowen, Martinelli, who I nearly captained even though he had a second game week, and Arsenal really laboured in that match. And then Ronaldo and King captain with De Gea, Antonio, Livramento, and Johnson. I swerved Dennis. Do you know what? I was close. I was close to doing Ronaldo to Dennis, but I really, really wanted Dean. So I can't remember who I had. I had some Brentford defender. What was his name? What's the Brentford defender's name?
Jansen?
No, not him. Pinnock. Ethan Pinnock.
Oh, Pinnock. Sorry, yeah.
I had Pinnock, yeah. So I got rid of Pinnock for Dean, and then it was a -4 for Ronaldo to Dennis, and I didn't really want the double Watford strikers, if I'm being honest. And in the end, I just decided to roll. But it was
a huge decision that. Now,
yeah.
Double game week 25 for Man United.
I know it's funny. I seem to be on the right side of these kind of decisions this year, whereas last year it was the complete opposite. So like you say, there is a lot of luck involved. I was worried about Dennis. I thought he was going to really punish me, but I've got to admit I did. I had my front door smashed in that night, but I did share a little smile for when Dennis got sent off. I have to be honest. Are the dogs here? Everyone's been asking about the dog.
You'll have to forgive him. Yeah, he'll start moaning if he doesn't get to sit up here and join the stream. He always knows when I'm doing something important like a stream or editing a video, because he'll start to whinge and I'll have to re-edit or whatever.
He goes on your shoulder, doesn't he?
Yeah, he likes to chill on my shoulder. It's his favourite spot to nap.
Bless him. There he goes. Yeah, so 45 for me. Pretty happy with that. Got King captain to play like you. Let's talk about Mark's team. So Mark, obviously not here. If you're listening, he will hopefully be back for the next pod. I think his work is starting to calm down a bit now. He's kind of finished the project he was working on, so he's a bit more free to focus on FPL, but it just came a little bit too soon for him this time. But he's on 31 points. He's got Ramsdale, his best mate, Trent, Alonso, Cancelo, Bowen, Jota, Mount, Martinelli, Foden, Dennis captain, oh dear, and Ronaldo. I'd love to get his thoughts on Dennis captain, because that just typifies his season that he's having at the moment.
Did he make a transfer for this game week to get him in?
I know. I believe. Oh, he might have done. I know he had him earlier in the season. I'm not sure what his move was this week. Looking at his team, I can't see any obvious things. I know he bought in Mount last week that he's regretting. Yeah, it could well have been Dennis in this week. His bench has got Guaita, Alonso, Reguilon, and Diop. So he's on 31 points, but yeah, it's not too bad given that some scores I've seen. But yeah, he won't be too happy.
His son for Mount last game week and Brozier for Dennis.
So he did bring in Dennis
this
week.
Week he got in Foden.
Oh, we got in Foden this week. Okay, fine.
Brought in Foden, yeah.
Oh, he always curse Foden. Yeah, thanks for that. It's funny because Mark has ended up with quite a few players who he doesn't really believe in. I mean, Ronaldo, he obviously despises. Ramsdale, he doesn't particularly like and has been kind of forced to getting him in. He hates Alonso at the moment, but he's got him stuck in his team. Foden, he was slating at the start of the season, and he's got him. He's kind of bringing in players that he doesn't fully believe in, and they're not paying off for him, bless him. But yeah, I'm sure he'll turn it around. Let's look at the great and the good standings. Thank you to Greyhead. He's added your scores into here. So Fabio is top. I'm chasing him. He's leading me by 5 points, but we've both got King to play, so I'm going to stay in second. FPL Generals in third. In last place is Mark, which is an incredible sight, really. He's trailing to Les Caldwell, who unfortunately got hacked. So Greyhead's kind of keeping his spirit going in this league. That's why there's the asterisk next to him, which is such a massive shame. And there's your mate Yavuz, who you made a name for yourself. This is where you kind of, made a big name for yourself early in the season, wasn't it? Interviewing him.
Yeah, I did a video with him. I noticed he had 7 top 10Ks in a row. So I reached out to him and he was happy to do a video. And so I spoke to him early in the season, did a video on his record and so on. But yeah, I'm really rooting for him this season, Yavis, because he said 4 years ago he's going to quit FPL when he finishes outside the top 10K. And then since then he's finished top 10K every season. But this season he's battling a bit. I think he's about 120K.
He's 132. 132,000. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's struggling a bit this season. But
it is interesting this year because... and just for anyone asking in the chat, I've turned you up a little bit. They were saying you were a little bit quiet. But hopefully hopefully you're a bit better now. But yeah, the... last year, it was a real varied mix of people in this league. You had people sort of around the 1K mark, and then the average was probably around 200,000-300,000. Then you had some people like me, like 800,000, 900,000. Whereas this year, Mark is bottom with 192,000, which isn't like a disaster. Like he's still got to be hopeful of pushing on, past the top 100K, probably into the top 50 is probably his aim. But yeah, people seem to be doing quite well this season, whereas last year it was much tougher. You're having your best season ever. Any reason for that, do you reckon?
I think honestly what actually helped was doing those videos with some of those top managers with really strong record, because I'd ask them in the videos, what tips can you share behind doing so well. I think this season I've taken a lot less hits, which obviously is a really obvious tip. I think a lot of it, like I said, is just luck, getting players in early before they start to hit some form. To get to the top 100, you really need a good record. I've actually prepared a few little stats on the great and the good, if you're interested.
I'm so interested, you wouldn't believe. Hit me.
All right, so the average rank, the best manager with the average rank of the last 5 seasons is Fabio Borges. He's got an average rank of 1.1k, which is just ridiculous over the last 5 seasons. That is. Next best is with 3.8k, so he's well out in front there. But the manager with the most top 10Ks is Villaronca. I don't know if he's actually playing this season.
He's not.
I don't actually see him there.
He's not playing this season.
Is he taking it off?
Yeah. We did a full... Well, Greyhead did a full, comprehensive search of him like he does every season. Yeah. He's off the grid. Not on there.
He's off the grid.
Off the grid.
Maybe it's like Yavis. He decided when he has a bad season, he's going to take a year off, or maybe he's quit completely.
Or maybe he's changed his name and we wouldn't know. Although I think someone would probably better find... someone's probably gone through all 8 million players to try and find him, knowing, but
I think there's websites now where you can search managers by name and whatnot.
Yeah.
But do you know who the manager is with the most top 5K finishes?
Top 5K? Well, I would have said Fabio.
It's actually Mark.
Is it now?
It's Mark, yeah. He's got 10 finishes in the top 5K. And do you know who the manager is with the most top 500 finishes?
Oh, that could... Late Riser's had a few, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's had a few. I think he's done it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's actually Mark as well.
Oh, all right. Mark's not here, Oscar.
No, so I'm wondering, what's the tipping point here for Mark before he goes on a Mourinho-esque rant about demanding more respect and all this?
He does it every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we first started doing Blackbox, I asked him how many sort of I asked him how many top 5K finishes he had or something, and he said, I think I've got like 1 or 2 or something. And then I looked through his record, I was like, no, hang on, Mark, you got 4 or something. And he couldn't even remember all of his top finishes.
He doesn't pay much attention to his rank history, does he? You ask him and he's like, I think I got this, but I'm not sure, I might have that.
Yeah. Well, just to deflate his ego a bit, he is bottom of the great and the good at the moment. And yeah, he needs to put his socks up to finish respectively. Looking at transfers and hits, so Mark has taken 32 points of hits. Yavers has taken the most, 48. Was that something you spoke about earlier? Like, is that a surprise to you that he's taken that many?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what he said now. He definitely was one of those managers who almost certainly never took hits. But yeah, it's very surprising that he's having such a difficult season and he's taken so many hits. But I know he's taken a couple of -12s even, so he's not afraid to take a huge hit to try and rectify his rank. Yeah. I do wonder when, the kind of the elite managers are struggling a bit, whether they maybe overcompensate a bit because they're not used to it. I mean, the difference of that was Fabio, who, for a lot of part of this season, he was right down the bottom of the table. He's gone on a crazy run.
To now be top of the great and the good and to be like 2.5k or whatever he is in the world.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is incredible.
About 10 game weeks ago, he was sitting around 300k.
I know.
He's really turned it on since then. He's had one red arrow in about 13 game weeks. Well,
the key to his success is he's got the most captain points of anyone in the great and the good. So he's had 410 points. I think I'm next with 384, if I'm looking rightly, which is the same as you, actually. We've got the same points from our captain. We've only taken minus 16. I think there's only one manager, which is Tom Freeman and Zofo. Two managers, Zofo and Tom Freeman, who've taken minus 12s. But I'm definitely making a conscious decision this year to take less hits. Like that has been a major part of my strategy. Last year I would have taken Roundabout for Dennis from -4. I'm sure I would, but I'm trying not to. What's your thoughts on hits?
Yeah, it's one of those though, isn't it? Because if you're doing well, you tend to need hits less. So it's not necessarily the answer. I don't think always, but yeah, I don't know. I'm doing the same this season. I'm trying not to take hits if I can avoid it. There's been a couple of game weeks where I've thought about it and just thought, no, I better not. I'll just see what happens if I don't. And I've ended up better off without the hit. But I think that could be some bias from a good rank.
I think I've got too overexcited by bringing in a player for like one week for a hit, and then end up regretting having that player in my team. And I'm trying to look a lot more long term planning. Do I want this player in my team for the next 3 or 4 game weeks? And I just didn't. Like one of Dennis or King would have been fine. I can bench them and everything, but bringing in another one and then almost probably immediately having to take them back out next week or the week after, that's when the hits kind of get a bit problematic because you've got to keep chopping and changing each week. So yeah, it is a lot easier to do when you're doing well because you don't feel the need to change your team up so much. But
right, exactly.
Yeah. I do think when you're making your transfers, that's something you need to consider. Okay, well, let's talk quickly before we come into all the stats that I know people are here for, and yourself as well. We did get some news earlier. This is from the COP HQ that Liverpool versus Leeds has been rearranged for Wednesday, the 23rd of February, which is 4 days before the Carabao Cup final at Wembley v Chelsea. It means that Liverpool are going to have a double game week, and it is probably the best double game week imaginable. 2 home games against 2 porous defences, Norwich and Leeds. They then go straight into the blank in 27. So I imagine there's going to be some free hits played around that time. What's your immediate thoughts with this? I can have a guess what you're going to say.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. That looks like the best game week all season for the triple captain. I think most people who still have it are going to use it then, probably on Salah. But yeah, like you say, the League Cup finals 4 days after the second of that double, so might see a bit of rotation, or might see someone brought off early, that sort of thing. But I don't think it's one to overthink. We've seen what Salah can do with limited minutes.
Yeah.
Even like last season, one of my worst Salah memory was last season when Liverpool played Palace. I don't know if you remember that game, but
off the bench.
Off the bench. There was a Liverpool leak last season on Twitter. And he said, Salah's benched this game week, so I thought maybe this is an opportunity to jump on Man United, who play against Leeds. So I ended up selling Salah last season for Rashford, who was in good form, to be fair. He was flying last season. Not so much this season, but of course, Salah off the bench in about half an hour, scored twice and got an assist. That one hurt. It's
moments like that, isn't it? Which, Salah's great, he's doing well this season, but you can't quite blame it. You can't help but blame him for that, because I have that with players who have done something. Lots of people have got that with Sterling, for example. You kind of forget all of the good moments Sterling might have, but all the hat tricks and goals, and then you think about when he blanked when he was your captain or when he missed that penalty on everyone's free hit last season, which I got blamed as well.
I think that I blame myself for that one, but I remember both Fabio and Yavis, neither of them are on Twitter, which is very interesting. So they basically have no noise to distract them and that sort of thing. So I wonder if there's something in that as well. These managers that have some of the best ranks in the game, they're not even on Twitter and don't pay any attention to the noise. They just kind of make their own decisions with what they think is, the right information at the time.
Yep. Well, don't say that. We're trying to convince people to listen to this, Oscar. So you think triple captain on Salah then for Norwich? I mean, there's got to be a bit of a worry about rotation, right? I mean, they've signed Diaz now as well, so you've now got Firmino, Jota, Salah, Mane. All these players kind of competing for these forward roles. I would imagine there's going to be some rotation there, especially with this cup final coming up. But it's just too good a double, isn't it? Like, it's not. I can't remember any team having as good a double as that. Not a top team with a double quite like that.
What's your plan? Are you going triple captain?
I think it's got to be. I mean, I definitely don't buy into this narrative that you shouldn't triple captain it because everyone's going to do it and it's boring and you want to save it for a differential. I have this argument every year with people. The points are the points. If you think Salah's going to get 25 points, he's the best triple captain player. I have this, every year I have this argument. So I'm definitely not going to be bought into that. If there's any, question marks about his minutes, if Klopp says, we're going to play a second string side for the second game. I mean, he's not going to say that, but you never know. I think I would need to have some kind of concrete information that Salah was a massive doubt.
Nico Williams has gone out on loan, so perhaps Trent's a bit more nailed and less likely to get rotated, whereas you might think otherwise he could be for one of those games. So I suppose if Klopp indicates something like that, maybe he'd be tempted by Trent over Salah. But no, I think Salah's the obvious one there.
I mean, best case scenario is, well, for me, and for you, if you did end up selling him, would be Salah gets to the final, has a break, they give him a holiday for a week, and then he comes back for the Norwich game, having just had a nice, 7 days in the sun somewhere nice. That would be ideal.
I'll cry if he misses another 2 game weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that would be beautiful.
That'd be brutal. Depends which side of the fence you're on.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm probably not going to own him until 26 because I can't sell Fernandes when he's got the double game week in 25. So I'm probably going to be without Salah for that Burnley match and bringing him for Norwich. But if Salah does come back from AFCON and is fine and plays against Leicester and Burnley, that's going to be a painful couple of watches, I think, because we know what he's capable of.
And obviously there's a lot more fixtures as well that could still be announced in 25 or 26. Ben Crowley obviously speculated some fixtures that can move into either game week, and there's rumours of Tottenham getting a double game week 26. So it's going to be a nightmare to navigate if Tottenham get the double as well. Because you're going to have, you need to have Ronaldo or Bruno for 25, Salah for 26. Potentially you want to have Son or Kane. So it's going to be interesting to see how everyone navigates those couple of game weeks.
I got some very interesting stats on Kane, on how he's been performing the last few weeks. Also some interesting stats on Jota as well. And how he's performing. The stats are good this week. I think you're gonna like them.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's get into them. Okay, so first of all, as always, we look at team data. So on the screen is team data. Defense. I'm going to make my screen a bit bigger because I can't actually see. That's better. So over the season, Man City are the top defence. This is filtered by minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. City are top, 144 minutes per XG conceded, which is absolutely insane. Then it's Chelsea, 108.9. Third, my team, Brighton, 92.8. So we're actually conceding less than an expected goal a match, which, for a kind of, I wouldn't even call us a top 10 side. We're a kind of 13th place side. I think to be, near the top of this metric compared to some of the other teams around us it just shows what a good job Potter's doing and how well organised we are.
Yeah, he's doing such a good job. I do wonder if a bigger club comes in from at some point soon. Maybe next season. I don't know.
Yeah, Everton was a worry for me. I thought they could look for him to kind of build a bit of a project with them. They've gone for Lampard instead. Arsenal, for example, if results don't pick up for Arteta and they gave him the boot, he'd be a good fit for them because of the style of football he plays. Yeah, it is a concern. I think he is definitely destined for big things. I think what he's doing at Brighton is fantastic. Down the bottom of the table, though, you've got Newcastle right down the bottom. They concede next year for 54 minutes, which is the worst in the league. You've got Leeds and Leicester. Again, every week I think we say how surprising it is to see Leicester so far down, but there they are. Norwich in 16th. They're climbing up steadily. They're not kind of right down the bottom where we've seen them in previous seasons. So I think there's been an impact from Smith coming in. They're ahead of some of their relegation threatened teams, Burnley and Watford, for example.
Have you got any Brighton defenders out of interest? Obviously, they're the other team with the double. We were talking about Man United, but Brighton have got the double as well.
They have, yeah.
After the blank this week.
I think Veltman's a good option now. Now Burn's gone. I think Veltman at 4-4 is pretty nailed on. He can play at wing back when Lamptey doesn't start. He can play full back. He can play centre back. I like the look of him. Webster's never going to get you a goal, but he will play every game. And then you've got Lamptey, of course, who's the exciting flair pick. But I thought by now he would be starting every game, and he's still having his minutes managed.
Yeah.
So he's the one I'd go for. But
really,
yeah,
Cucurella.
Cucurella just doesn't offer enough attacking wise, I don't think. If you look at his kind of expected goal involvement, it's really, really low. He just doesn't seem to create that many chances. He plays, but I'm not convinced he's worth the extra 0.5. I think I would just go for Lamptey or Veltman, if I'm being honest.
One thing I noticed about Cucurella is obviously he doesn't get many attacking returns. I think he's got just this assist all season. But he's got a really high baseline BPS, which is obviously that measurement when you strip out, all the obvious stats like, bonus points for a clean sheet and so on. And he's got a really, really high baseline BPS, one of the highest among all defenders. And I think he's got the most bonus points among all Brighton players, outfield that is. I think Sanchez might have more. So I wonder if he makes up for it in bonus or not.
Yeah.
3 points, that's only one less than he'd get from an assist, for example.
He just needs to start, I think creating more chances, I think, or getting more involved in the penalty area and around the penalty area. Because if he can start adding those, like a trickle of assists into his game, even if it's like 1 in 2 or 3 games, I think he becomes a real asset. But I think when Lamptey plays, he just offers so much attacking potential. Good old lively Lamptey. You mentioned Brighton defensively. You mentioned Cucurella's bonus points. So Brighton sit in 6th over the last 4 in terms of expected goals conceded non-penalty. So Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, all ahead of them. Teams you'd expect to be ahead of them, right? And then you've got Brighton there as well. Do you have how many clean sheets Brighton have in the last 4 matches?
Last 4? None?
None is the correct answer.
Is that right?
That is correct. So this is the problem with Brighton. This is the problem with Brighton defenders and investing in them, and with Sanchez as well, is that we've got great underlying stats, unbelievably good defensive stats. For 4.5 million defenders and goalkeepers, it's absolutely perfect. We don't keep any clean sheets.
Yeah, you find a way to concede one.
Always find a way to concede one. It's very frustrating. Looking at some of the other players, other teams in this list, Arsenal are in 2nd now, so 147.5 minutes per expected goal conceded. So that's as good as City this season. So Arsenal have been really, really impressive defensively over the last 4, and they've played Man City in that time as well. In the game, I think they should have won, apart from another crazy Xhaka red card. But City are top again. I mean, they're just absolutely relentless defensively. 160 minutes per expected goal conceded. That's nearly 2 games. Before they concede a goal according to these stats.
Yeah. They're a level above again this season. It's kind of them and then the rest of the pack. It looks like they're going to walk away with the league again quite comfortably, I think. Yeah,
I mean, when you've got a team where you've got such solid foundations defensively, and then you've got the offensive potential they've got, it's very difficult to argue against them. Just quickly to answer Jadenus77, don't normally answer super chats on this, but thank you very much for donating. Just to ask a question about Dunk, he's down to 4.8. Jaden asked if he's going to be eased back in. He won't be eased back in, he'll be straight back in. With Burn going as well. I mean, Burn has been brilliant for us in the games that he's played. I'm really, really surprised that we let him go for 15 million. I think he just wanted to go. I don't think
you'll miss him much, though, to be honest. I think it's more of a system, isn't it, with Brighton? And you've got Dunk coming back, so I don't think you'll actually miss Burn much.
We won't unless someone gets injured. Player. Unless someone gets injured, that's the problem. He's been backup, but he's a damn good backup to have. He can fill in at left back, he can play at centre back, he can play in a 3 or a 2. And the worry is that Dunk or Duffy or Veltman get injured or something, and then we haven't really got anyone that can fill in.
Did Brighton have anyone coming in this window?
We signed a striker and then loaned him back out.
Oh, did you?
We did.
Oh, all right. So no one basically, just outgoings.
No,
did an Arsenal.
Yeah. Just Burn leaving. Yeah, which is pretty frustrating. I've got to stop talking about Brighton. I'm getting a bit carried away. Just finally, before we move on about team, this is what happens on this. You go into some stats, you end up going down a bit of a rabbit hole. The final one I want to talk about is just Leicester, really, because over the last 4, Leicester are bottom of the chart. They're conceding next year every 39.2 minutes, which is quite far off Leeds, who are second to bottom with 47.6. I mean, I know they've had injuries, but you wouldn't expect Leicester to be bottom, would you, for this kind of metric? They concede so many chances, and they play Liverpool next.
Yeah, I mean, they've really dropped off this season. I think over the last 4 they had City and Liverpool, which might skew it a bit, but yeah, I mean, I think they've just been ravished of injuries, but they just don't look as good as they have done in previous seasons, regardless of the injuries. But it's surprising to see them so much lower because, there have been defensive players in that Leicester team before that have been good options. I remember Soyuncu for 4.5, he was a brilliant option. But there's no one that looks good. Even last season, players like Castagna, he was a good pick. Obviously, Pereira's been out for a while, but he was a good pick a few seasons back. But yeah, huge drop-off. They just don't look as good.
Like you said, they're all just injured.
Attacking or defending.
I mean, Pereira's been out, Castagne's been out. Justin, I think, was a massive loss given how good he was last season. They're starting to get some of these guys back now, but I mean, they're going to have to massively improve for us to consider any of their defenders, and they are still a target, I think, for us, for our attackers. That 0-0 draw against Liverpool was completely, against everything that we would have predicted. Let's take a look at team data attack. So I think the main one to talk about here is Spurs, because Spurs have gone from bottom 10 for all these attacking stats. They're up to third now for the season. It just shows what a transformation Conte's had in. They're behind only Liverpool, Man City, creating an XG non-penalty every 61.2 minutes. That's compared to City 46.2 and Liverpool every 40 minutes. So Liverpool basically expected to score more than 2 goals every game, which is, again, pretty nuts. But over the last 4, Spurs are top, 41.1, and Arsenal was second with 49. They're getting a big chance every 25 minutes over the last 4. I know they've been playing teams, there's been a couple of red cards and maybe the fixtures have been quite good, but is now the time to start thinking about Spurs assets?
If we didn't have a double game week on the horizon, or double game weeks, then it's a no-brainer, yes. But it's the thing about double game weeks, isn't it? It kind of just books in your transfers elsewhere. If Man United didn't have a double game week 25, then I would be looking at Son or Kane, maybe even both. Those that don't have Salah, they'll be looking to get him in for the double game week. So it's difficult to find a place for them unless they do get the rumoured double game week 26 as well. But again, that's going to be a juggling act because, there's Bruno, Salah, Ronaldo, Son, Kane. Difficult to fit them all in. So,
do you think we're getting a little bit blinded by the double game week though, and not considering the likes of Son and Kane because we're focusing on Fernandes, Ronaldo, who have been so inconsistent?
Yeah, I think you're right. You look at Dennis. A lot of us got blinded by the double game week when we would have been better off rolling the transfer. A lot of us sold Antonio for Dennis. The right call would have been to just hold on to Antonio. Would have been points up and a transfer up. So maybe, but in this case, we're not talking about smaller sides. No disrespect to Watford, but we're talking about big sides with double game weeks. So I think it's logical to give priority to those doubles and those teams.
Yep. A couple more to mention. So Villa are right down in 18th over the season. 91.9. Gerrard has massively improved them defensively. I think we can see over the last 4, Villa up to 8th in the defensive standings and up to 7th overall. So defensively, Villa are looking a solid side. Attacking wise, they're struggling though. I mean, they're 13th over the last 4. So the likes of Watkins haven't really been performing. They've got Coutinho now and Buendia. I think Coutinho's got the assist, Buendia's got the goal, but he hasn't sort of massively improved them into this big offensive side. I mean, to be 18th over the season, I mean it's a long way from where they want to be, given the kind of attacking options that they've got. What are your thoughts on Villa? Are you looking at any of their attacking players?
I suppose over the season there's a hangover from Smith there, the fact that they're 18th. Looks like they have improved over the last 4.
Up to 13. I mean, they've gone from a minutes per expected goal every 91.9 over the season, and they're only at 88.5. So it's not a huge increase in the last 4 under Gerrard.
Yeah, maybe he's still trying to find a system that works, get the right players in the right positions. I think Ings is a bit of a problem. I don't think Gerrard has that much interest in playing Ings, and he's just kind of acquired him from becoming manager rather than a player that he would have looked to sign. So, and Coutinho's just come in, so I think they'll improve. It's still early doors. It looks like they're trending upwards anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they couldn't get much worse from where they were, second-wise under Smith to be that low. Newcastle, over the season, 19th. You can see why they've invested in some of the players that they've got. Under Howe, they're on the up as well. They're up to 14th. Over the last 4.
Stay up, Newcastle, after this window they've had? I think
they've had an absolutely incredible window. To be honest, they've signed some quality kind of all over the park. It's going to be a real dogfight. I think Everton could get sucked into it. I think if Lampard is, I'm just really surprised with the Lampard signings of Van der Beek and Ali. One of them, okay, I get, but they're almost competing for the same position in a team that isn't particularly good defensively. They're going to have to go on the attack, and I just worry they could be found out a bit if those two players don't perform, and they haven't been performing, for a long time for their clubs. It's a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, right now they're 16th.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised he took the job even, because he's come straight in and the pressure's on mid-season. I think he would have been better off taking a championship job perhaps and then working upwards. He finds himself in a tough position. So I don't envy his position, but I think they're one of those sides that have got a couple of game weeks to reschedule. So maybe at one point we'll be looking at players like Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
But I think talking about getting sucked into double game weeks, so some of us have still got a hangover from the Everton double game with players like Keane. And,
oh God.
What's the West Ham defender, Dawson? Players like those still in our sides. I'm one of them. I've got Dawson still from the West Ham double.
I nearly bought Keane for that double. I went for Pinnock instead, which was a disaster. But Keane would have been even worse. He got an own goal, didn't he, in the first match? Was there an own goal or a red card?
Yeah.
One of the two.
So I think the second of his double got postponed, and then he scored an own goal after that. So I feel for anyone who brought in Keane. I think Magnus Carlsen and Fabio Borges both brought him in, which is very unfortunate. But it just goes to show, variance in this game.
Absolutely. So just over the last 4, just a couple more teams to mention. Man City are down in 11th. So, far cry from where we'd expect them to be. Attacking wise, defensively they're just incredible, but they have slipped a bit offensively. That Arsenal game, for example, they were in real trouble in that game until that red card. Chelsea, though, down in 15th. So, we all can see that they're struggling, but they're really struggling attacking wise. Newcastle are creating more chances than they are. Which is surprising. And the last thing to mention is right at the bottom in 20th, an XG non-penalty every 132 minutes, which is much worse than Norwich with 107, is Wolves. So Wolves have won 3 of their last 4 games, but sit bottom of the attacking metric.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Isn't
He's
it?
done well there to get those results, considering.
Yeah.
But Chelsea as well, surprising. Obviously, they're riddled of injuries. They've got a lot of key players out. I think Chilwell and James, perhaps 2 of the biggest misses in that team. They're very reliant on them to get a lot of their attacking returns or contributions earlier in the season. So I think that's partly to blame. But yeah, Tuchel, I don't know, he seems a bit unsure on his favoured attack still.
He does.
After all this time. Last season, Mount, Werner and Havertz got him to the Champions League final and won it. And this season, Lukaku comes in, but it seems to be doing worse. There was the whole drama with that interview.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the injuries they've had have played a big part in that. They've been very unlucky of injuries.
We've seen previously that Tuchel strikers tend to struggle, which is why Lukaku was such an interesting signing. Because to me, Lukaku looked like the perfect signing for Chelsea. He just plays centre forward. He's going to so much creativity around him, be the focal point of the attack. Crosses from Chilwell and James. It's going to be absolutely match made in heaven. But we had him complaining about his role in the side, and it's almost like Tuchel wants to use him as like a Havertz type, kind of false 9-ish type role, which is not how you should use Romelu Lukaku. He's a out-and-out goal scorer. So there seems to be a bit of a disconnect with that, and he's got to kind of find the balance with it, because they need to get these numbers up if they're gonna. Well, they're not going to challenge for the title this season, but even to stay in the top 4.
I thought they would challenge for the title heading into the season. I thought it might be between Chelsea, City, maybe Liverpool. Because Chelsea just looked so good last season. They just looked the type of side you really didn't want to play against, tough to break down. But yeah, they've kind of progressed a bit this season. But speaking of injuries, I'm looking forward to Reece James and his return, which comes kind of after all those blanks, because he was brilliant earlier in the season. And the fixtures look good as well after the blanks are over. So he's one player on the watch list.
I think he's kind of coming back at the right time, because we're not going to consider him with the blanks they've got, but it gives him time to get back up to speed and get his role back in the side. And then when the blanks are over, I think he's going to be a top target for a lot of people. He's what, 5'8" or 5'9" or something? Cheap, basically.
Yeah, he's dropped down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got 6 straight fixtures,
Yep.
Classified as green, if you buy into the whole colour system. But yeah, good fixtures regardless.
Yep, he'll be definitely on a lot of people's watch list. Right, let's look at some player data. Let's take a look at player data for the season. So top is Salah. No surprise there. 16 goals, 10 assists. Absolutely outrageous. 22 minutes per shot. Minutes per XGI of 112.9 minutes. Then it's Jota in second, 10 goals this season, having a very good season. 3 assists, 26.3 minutes per shot. Then Matt Doherty's climbed into the list somehow. Yep, he's got in there. We have a 180 minutes type filter to filter the players that really don't play. Yeah, he's now played enough minutes to kind of get over that threshold, and he's not really going to be an option for us, but there he is in the list anyway. Daka enters into the list as well in fourth. Interesting one. I mean, Vardy, we're expecting him to be back, but I'm imagining that Daka's going to be the kind of long-term Vardy replacement. I think particularly next season we're going to see Vardy start playing a lot less. And I do think, if Daka can carry on posting these kind of stats, and Leicester can kind of sort themselves out, I think Daka could be a strong option for us in seasons to come.
Definitely, yeah. It looks like they're kind of preparing for Vardy, and he seems to be on his way up very slowly. Even Rodgers has said this season that he's not capable of playing midweek and weekend. So, even if we get a juicy looking Leicester double game week, I don't think Vardy would be the one. I just wouldn't be able to trust that he plays both games in a double game week, unfortunately. Yep.
Some other names on it. So you've got Ronaldo. He's in 10th. 8 goals, 3 assists. It was like forever since he scored. Had that game against Burnley, but has been kind of labouring a little bit. 23.1 minutes per shot is the second best in the league, though, to Salah. So he's still getting his shots away. It's kind of what he's in the team for. 150.6 minutes per expected goal involvement is, it's all right, but we're hoping for more of him, especially in the double game week. Foden is there in 13th. Sterling is ahead of him. You notice there's no De Bruyne on this list. In terms of those kind of expected goals and involvement, De Bruyne is quite far down, as we kind of see.
Wow.
In a bit. It's definitely Sterling is the one, if you believe in these stats, and then Foden next. Creeping into this list, though, he's been in the kind of between 40th and 50th for most of the season, but we now see Harry Kane come into 17th. 5 goals, 2 assists, 26.4 minutes per shot is third best on this list. He's looking more like the player we're used to, and he's the one that I'm looking as my Ronaldo replacement. I think probably as soon as I can do it feasibly.
Yeah, I mean, he started to turn it around, but it's crazy. We look at this. We're 23 game weeks into the season, and Kane's on 5 goals, 2 assists. Never in a million years would have guessed. He looked like almost essential going into this season after the way he did last season. But he's starting to look like an option again, especially if Spurs do get that double game week. And I think those are Ronaldo. The transfers make themselves. If you've got Ronaldo, then if Spurs get a double game week the following game week, it's an easy move. And likewise, if you've got Bruno, I think the Son move might make itself.
Yeah, I think Kane is starting to push ahead of Son for me now on my kind of wish list. It's been Son
really?
for all of the season, but when I see the rapid rise that Kane's having up this list, and we'll see it more clearly in the last 4 data as well, it's a play you've got to take note of, because Spurs have got Spurs have got the best attacking stats over the last 4, and Kane's stats are on the rise as well. It's a good mix, and for him the fixtures are a bit of a mixed bag. That's the kind of only thing. 22nd is Trent, and the reason I've highlighted Trent is because Trent has absolutely no right to be on this list whatsoever.
He must be the only defender here, right?
Well, apart from Matt Doherty in
of course,
third.
except Doherty. He must have barely played that 180 threshold.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's very much skewed by the kind of. I think he's only played 45 minutes for the last couple and got an assist in that, so it is very much skewed. But there's no other defenders on this list, and this is for the season. So there's no Reece James, there's no Robertson, there's no Cancelo. All these defenders that have been doing so well for us. Trent is there in 22nd, keeping pace with the midfielders and the strikers as well. 10 assists this season, only bettered by Bowen. Amazing. What a season he's having.
Yeah, I wonder what he'll be priced next season, because every season since he broke through, he's been going up in price. I remember that season he had his breakout, he was $5 million.
Yeah.
And he got like a goal, 13 assists that season for only $5 million. But yeah,
8.5, I can see him.
Do you reckon 9? Or is that too much?
I think it depends on his second half of the season. I think if he hits, 220 plus points or something, which he could well do, I think we could see him at 9.
I'd probably pay it. 9 mil if he has a 200-point season. I think that's fair value.
Yeah, I know. He's kind of breaking the game as he is. I think what they need to do with those prizes is give you a decision to make, because at the moment you're just gonna have him, aren't you? Like if he's 7.5, but if he's up to 9, then suddenly it's taking quite a lot of your budget up. Played Dojo over the last 4. So this is the last 4 matches. Obviously, Son's been injured, but in the last 4 matches he played, he remains top of this list, 101.2. Edouard has massively gone up over the last 4. I think he's got 2 goals, 4 or 5 assists in the last sort of 4 games. Oh, it's on the screen for me anyway. 3 goals and 2 assists. What am I talking about? It's literally on the screen for me. Can't even read. Someone said earlier that I need to get glasses. I think I probably do. So Edouard is an interesting option. He was signed, for everyone was quite excited about his arrival, but he's just been in and out of the team with Mateta, Benteke, Zaha, Ayew. It's hard to know how much he's going to play. He's got Norwich next though. Would you have him on a wild card?
Yeah, again, this is the thing about these double game weeks. On a wild card, I'd be tempted, but there's just no room to look at him right now if you're not on a wild card. And I don't honestly think it's a good game week to wild card.
Oh, really?
Interesting. I don't think so. I think you're better off attacking a double game week.
There'll be people in the chat on their wild card like, oh God, don't say that.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone's on a wild card in chat, apologies for that. But no, I think if you're wild card in the second half of the season, you have to attack a double game week. And Man United and Brighton doubling isn't really enough to attack.
Yeah. I mean, Edouard is. I did a video for Scout a week ago where I collected some wildcard teams from people, and Edouard featured very highly in those scores. There's players like Broja, who a little bit differential, who are in quite a lot of the teams. People moving for De Bruyne, for example, with Brentford and Norwich coming up. But overall, it did seem like a lot of the teams were, kind of players that a lot of people have already got. I mean, people moving back to Salah. I guess if you haven't got a plan for Salah, if you're stuck with Chelsea players and you've got double Watford attack, then your team is, you probably need to do it to kind of sort out those issues. But if you can kind of address those kind of things in a -4, a couple of transfers or something, then you probably don't need to. Kane's up to 7th, so over the last 4, 126.8. Which is, he's been nowhere near on these tables. We've had to go down for so far.
Are these the last 4 game weeks or the last 4 matches?
These are the last 4 matches they've played.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I suppose this season, last game weeks is not a particularly good measurement, is it? Because there's so many postponements and whatnot.
It's been quite tricky doing these tables, yeah, because normally we do last 4 game weeks, but obviously that kind of skews things because then everyone's minutes are kind of a bit thrown out. So I did it last 4 matches, which is why you start seeing some kind of weird players on this list, like Rupp's on there, for example. I don't think it's played that much, but
I think it's probably what you have to do though.
Yeah,
like game week 28. If you look at the last 4 game weeks, Chelsea will have played 1 match.
Well, exactly. It's hard to kind of judge it. But these last 4 have been when Son's not been there, or at least hasn't been there for a couple of them. It's interesting that Kane's. You think Kane would be worse with Son not in the team, but actually he's kind of almost become that talisman figure again for them. I can't imagine Son back is going to impact him negatively because they've got such a good relationship, but it does seem that he's stepping up again and he kind of is believing in the project a bit more under Conte. So yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch. I mean, minutes per shot 17.1 is so far ahead of anyone else in the league. He's taking shots the most frequently of anyone, so it's exactly what you want to see from Kane. Going a bit further down the list, Bruno Fernandes in 18th. So again, he's a player who hasn't really been featuring on these tables at all. 2 goals and 2 assists. All pretty fortuitous in different ways. I was on the good end of it. I'm still not convinced by him at all, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't be buying him.
Bruno?
Yeah, Bruno.
Really?
I'm not
That's
convinced.
Interesting.
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced?
No, and I own him.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it was, before the double game week, he'd scored once since game week 4. And that was why I thought I might get away with not selling Salah for Bruno for the double, because Bruno hadn't done much up until that point. And I thought, I'll use a transfer now. I'm going to have to use a second one in the space of 3 weeks. But yeah, you really punished me for that. So
yeah,
I personally, I can't bear the thought of not getting Bruno again and he hauls again. So I'll probably end up getting him. It's him or Ronaldo, and I think I prefer Bruno.
Yeah, I don't think there's much in it between them. I really don't. I think both have been so poor recently. I mean, you talk about stats and the eye test. I mean, I've watched the majority of United's games. I mean, Bruno Fernandes getting 2 goals. I mean, the first goal, Martinez basically just dropped it into the net for him. The second one was better. It was more like the Bruno Fernandes of last year, making the burst into the box. But he still doesn't look right. Like he's not getting forward enough. His passing's a bit wayward at times. I'm not convinced. And then I look at the stats. I mean, you would think, given that he's gone up to kind of 18th, you think his stats would be a lot better than they have been early in the season, but they're not really. I mean, his chance creation's up a little bit. He's taking a shot a little bit more regularly, but it's not like huge improvements that I'd want to see from him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not totally convinced. I think I'd still lean for Ronaldo, who's in 31st though over the last 4. So 200 minutes per expected goal involvement from Cristiano Ronaldo. Such a drop off.
So you've had to cut it to make room for Ronaldo.
I have.
Then.
I literally had to cut it.
At 30.
Absolutely, I've literally had to cut it to fit in Ronaldo. How bad is that?
Jota as well, surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we were talking about Jota and what effect Salah and Mane being away at AFCON would have on Liverpool and Jota, because obviously the appeal there was that he looks totally nailed. But on the other hand, what effect does it have with them being absent? And it looks like the numbers have dropped off.
Well, they've dropped off absolutely enormously. It's the biggest drop off I think of any player. He's down to 37th, and he was second. He's second overall in the season, and
so
now he's
that
37th.
we had earlier, he was second over the season, but he's 37th in the last 4.
Crazy. I'm looking to sell him as soon as possible.
Are you really, even for the double game weeks?
Oh no, well I'll probably keep him for that, and then get rid of him. Right. I don't want him. His effective ownership's too high. I'm not gaining any ground from him. Effective ownership is fine if you want to protect yourself and you think that player is going to carry on doing well. But as soon as you think they're going to be rotated more with Diaz coming back in, with Salah, Firmino, Mane all back, I think he's the perfect player to sell. Because as long as you get the replacement right, it could really push you up the ranks. It's a gamble, but
it's a gamble. Robertson is the one who's been doing better recently. So you could make the case for doubling up in defence.
Well, exactly.
I think it's a bit too sideways ahead of the double to go Jota to Robertson. So
if I was wildcarding,
tail end of the season, but not now.
Yeah, if I was wildcarding this week, I'd go Robertson over Jota.
Yeah, if I was wildcarding, definitely.
Yeah,
as long as you're set up for when they blank, you'll have to have
exactly
the rest of your defence with a good fixture that blank game week.
Yeah, because Robertson's 38th, so Jota's 37th. Robbo is 38th. 215.5 from each expected goal involvement compared to Jota's 213. So there's not much in it between them at all, but then you get the extra defence points and the nail oness that Robertson gives. So
even like a couple of seasons ago, the Liverpool double up in defence was totally viable. I had it then, and it was quite good for me that season, and even the season before. It's just last season when Liverpool were riddled with the injuries in defence that it wasn't really a viable approach. So yeah, definitely, I think it's an option for the run-in. Could be a great differential.
Yeah,
everyone's got Trent, so therefore you don't gain much by a Liverpool clean sheet. But if you've got the 2 Liverpool defenders, there's huge upside in that.
Yep.
Likewise with Cancelo, double up with Diaz, for example, maybe Laporte.
Yep.
That's where you make the ground.
Absolutely, yeah. And like with City defence, like we've talked about, they're just so almost impenetrable. I mean, Southampton did so well to get a goal and hold on for that draw against them. The other interesting play here in 47th, so that's go really far down the list over the last 4, was De Bruyne. I mean, given that he's got a goal and 2 assists, been scoring, he'd have got an assist against Southampton, but still got bonus points in that game as well. Someone that a lot of people are looking to get in. I mean, expecting goal involvement is 242.5, which is...
Yeah, that's so much lower than I expected.
So much lower.
I mean, he started to get the minutes. Before that, he'd been rotated a lot. People were speculating that Pep was saving him for Champions League and bigger matches, bigger competitions. But no, he's been getting the minutes. But I'm surprised to see him so far down, as he has been doing fairly well, but evidently not based on the underlying data.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the expected goals and involvement is all based on averages, right? And De Bruyne is so above average in every department that, kind of makes a mockery of these stats a lot of the time. When he picks up the ball anywhere around the penalty area, the opposition's box, you sense he's gonna fire a rocket in. But yeah, I mean, it's still, I guess it's still a bit concerned when you've got Fernandes and you've got Salah and you've got these Ronaldo and these premium options, breaking your team apart for a player who's 47th on the player list might just give you a bit of a pause for thought. But I mean, he's still a great option. Anyway, right, let's move on to looking at players by position. Hopefully helpful for people looking at wildcard drafts as well. Goalkeepers. So this is quite interesting. A couple of interesting things here. So top of the list with the most clean sheets in his last 4 games is Pope. Did not think that.
Pope?
Yeah, he's got 3 clean sheets in his last 4 starts.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So again, it's his last 4 matches.
Yeah, so it's not game weeks.
Yeah.
He was injured for a couple and they've conceded, but he's, when he's been playing, he's been keeping the clean sheets. Only conceded 1 goal in that time as well. Hasn't been asked to make too many saves. I mean, XG prevented 0.8, so it's not massively high, but I think it just shows that he's been quite poor for Burnley this season. But I think it shows he's an important cog when he's playing right. They need him to have a better second half of the season, I think, to have any chance of staying up.
Would you consider Pope on a wild card?
I would. Yeah, I would. Given how many games Burnley have,
yeah,
I think he probably is someone to consider. I don't think I would have him on his own potentially, because I don't think I'd want to play him if they didn't have a double game week, and the fixtures are quite tough for them. Yeah. I guess he's quite expensive as well, and you're probably looking at pairing him with someone like Ramsdale and De Gea. But I mean, a Pope and Sanchez double up, for example, wouldn't set you back huge amounts, and if you've built up a decent team value, then I can see the logic of it.
Yeah, again, that was going back to both Yavas and Fabio. One thing they always said was be adaptable with your strategy and how you're approaching the game tactically. And I do think this season that having two playable keepers is the way to do it. Normally any other season I would have a 4.5 mil keeper and a 4 mil keeper, whether they play or not. But I think due to the amount of postponements, I think it's probably better to have someone like Pope and a cheaper keeper, or maybe someone like Loris and Ramsdale. In my case, I've currently got Ramsdale and De Gea, so between them, I've got 4 or 5 game weeks to be rescheduled. So I think it's worth it for those extra fixtures you get, and which will amount to more points, which is what we want.
Lovely segue into the next two, which is Ramsdale and De Gea. I had to double check these stats multiple times. Minutes per save. Ramsdale is bottom of all keepers over the last 4. He's made 4 saves in the last 4 game weeks. Ramsdale.
4 saves in 4 game weeks.
In his last 4 matches. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a minutes per save every 90 minutes. I mean, I can't get my head around that. Like, I know Arsenal played Man City in that time. Don't forget as well. Okay, their fixtures, they played Burnley and kept a clean sheet. Now they've had quite good fixtures, but that is incredible, isn't it? For him to only have made one save a match.
That is surprising. Maybe it's a bit of a drop off. I don't know. Maybe the shots just haven't been at him, or maybe they were unsavable. I mean, could be an anomaly. I don't know, because wasn't the defensive numbers good for the season?
Yeah, very good defense. So I think it's a testament to Arsenal that the teams aren't getting these shots off. I mean, he's conceded 2 goals. He's conceded 3 goals in that time. So nearly as many goals conceded as saves. But his XG prevented is still 0.9. So the shots he has conceded have been good quality chances that he wasn't expected to save, at least. But
I don't think I'd say that he's been playing badly, though. I don't think anyone's been calling for him to be rotated, Leno to start or anything like that sort of thing in recent game weeks. Must be a bit of an anomaly, but yeah, surprising, because all the others are way better.
Well, he's been making so many saves this season as well. I mean, the great thing about Ramsdale is he's the second highest for minutes per baseline bonus out of all keepers. So even though he's not making saves, because he passes the ball so well and he's so good with his feet, he's second only to Martinez over the last 4. For that, who's on 9.5. So basically, as we saw in the game against Burnley, Ramsdale got bonus points, didn't make a save. Like that's the kind of thing that you can get from him. So great goalkeeper. Opposite of that though is De Gea. So De Gea is making a save every 16.4 minutes, which is the most in the league. Great.
Yeah,
where would they be?
It's a bit of a juggling act, isn't it, with your goalkeepers, because you want the save points.
Yeah.
You don't want them to lose the clean sheets. De Gea has been making an absurd amount of saves over that double game week. I think he did quite well. I actually hadn't captain in the double game week, which was okay. Could have been better. Didn't keep a clean sheet, but he got so many save points and bonus points as a result of all those saves. So I don't know what you'd rather have: lots of saves and you're putting the clean sheets on the line, or someone a bit safer like Ramsdale who's not getting tested as much.
I know, it's a really tricky one, isn't it? I mean, XG prevented for De Gea is 2.6, which is the best in the league. So again, I say whether they'd be without him, or they'd be, nearly 3 goals down, 3 goals conceded more without him. His baseline bonus is rubbish, though. I mean, 4.7 is the worst I think on this list, other than Butland. So he's probably not going to get you bonus points. He's going to need to make a lot of saves to get those bonus points, whereas Ramsdale can seemingly get them from nothing. So if Arsenal didn't have the blanks, I'd be keeping Ramsdale, I think, if I had to pick one. But given they've got the blanks, United fixtures are quite good in the short term. It would probably be leaning towards De Gea. But I still think Ramsdale is the best goalkeeper this season to own, based on these numbers.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And I do think the double up's worth it. I've got both of them, so I'm happy to have the double game week for Man United. And then Arsenal, they've got, I think, 4 games to rearrange still. So perhaps those even get slotted into... in fact, I think they've got a blank in 26, don't they? Or 25. So maybe it'll be a single. But yeah, I think he's a no-brainer for the remainder of the season if you're on a wild card, because he's got those double game weeks to come. Yep,
agreed. And the final 2 players I want to mention here are Schmeichel, 1 clean sheet, 10 goals conceded, which is the most in the league, but an XG prevented of 2.5, so second best of goalkeepers. So again, he's conceded 10 goals, but he's still managed to save more shots than he's kind of expected to. So it just highlights how many shots Leicester are conceding at the moment. It's crazy numbers.
I suppose, yeah. Again, it goes back to if you get a leaky defence that have loads of shots facing them, then there is a save points to be made. But I don't know if I'd be looking anywhere near the Leicester defence right now. Even when the double game weeks come around, I think I'd be more inclined to someone like Ramsdale, maybe Pope, someone like that over Schmeichel.
Yep, agreed. And Sanchez is 16th. I mentioned no clean sheets, 5 goals conceded in those 4. Minutes per base on bonus of 6.2, which sort of puts him in between Ramsdale and De Gea. He just minutes per save 32.7. I mean, it's okay. He doesn't make a huge amount of saves. He's probably not going to be that likely to get bonus. 4.6 though is a decent price for him. A double game week to come, but I wouldn't have him as my only goalkeeper. Let's put it that way.
No, agreed. It's quite cheap. He's only had 1 price rise, 4.6.
Yeah. He's still the standout, I think. Still the standout 4.5-ish keeper.
I think so, yeah. And if I was on a wild card, I would definitely be having 2 playable keepers and looking at which rotate and which have got lots of double game weeks to come. I think that's the way to play it right now.
Yep.
When are you planning to wild card out of interest? Do you have an idea yet?
Good question. Not really. I tend to save it for when I need it. I mean, I'm hoping we start getting more double game weeks dropped in and planning becomes a bit easier. I mean, I guess I've got to use it synchronised with the bench boost, which I hate doing because I always end up doing a crappy wild card to have a load of rubbish players who don't play. But yeah, no. My team's looking pretty healthy at the moment, so no immediate plans. It might be sometime soon after Liverpool's blank, potentially, to kind of shuffle things around. But yeah, it just depends, doesn't it? I think we're going to start seeing players like Reece James coming back. If Coutinho can suddenly be an option, Kane as well might be someone that I want to move to. Yeah, there's a long time to go, so I'm happy just to keep it for now and kind of wait. Yep. Defenders, there isn't really too much interesting on this list. Doherty's in top, obviously we don't need to talk about him. But Reece James in his last 4 games, just to show where he would be. I mean, he'd be 3rd on this list for expected goal over non-penalty. So that's ahead of the likes of Robertson, Trent, head of Trent even. Head of like Dean and Alonso, well, everyone. So it just shows what a massive impact James has had going forward and how much of an impact he could have, I think, in the second end of the season as well. Robertson's in 4th, though. Robertson's ahead of Trent over the last 4. 215.5 minutes compared to Trent's 282. So Robertson, I think, is really starting to become a factor for us.
I wonder if that's a consequence of teams being more aware of Trent and what he's capable of. Perhaps tactically, managers are lining them up to not give Trent those crossing opportunities. But as a consequence, it gives Robertson more space. Trent's, every game you see him switching it from one side straight over to Robbo, and perhaps that's given Robbo the space to attack more. Maybe that's why we've seen him pick up the attacking returns over the last 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have seen this in previous seasons as well. I mean, you see Robertson going on a crazy run, and then Trent. It has been quite rare for them both to be doing it at kind of the same time. And I do wonder if there is a little bit of that, targeting against different teams and focusing down play on one different wing, for example. In 5th is Davinson Sanchez at 4.6. Romero's coming back for Spurs. Kind of, we wonder who's going to drop out. We think Dyer's probably quite safe. Ben Davies has been playing well. Davinson Sanchez has been good as well. Spurs defence in general, what are your thoughts? Reguilon's down there in 7th. Any of them you'd like?
Not too tempted by the Spurs defence, to be honest. I think Reguilon's quite an appealing pick, but we've seen Sessegnon start here and there, and he's not done too badly overall. So I just wonder if we can trust Reguilon to play both games in a double. If we could, then I think he's an absolute standout, but I'm not sure if he's worth it for 5.4.
What's going on with him? Why isn't he like? He must have an injury or some kind of niggle that they just can't seem to sort. Because
Yeah, I remember he picked up that injury and then he put out that tweet, didn't he? He said, "Don't worry, FPL managers, I'll be back for the next game week." And not his fault, but I think Spurs ended up getting like 2 games postponed.
he then got COVID, didn't he? He jinxed himself.
Yeah, so no, I don't know. I'm not tempted by him for 5.4. I think for 0.9 less, maybe someone like Davinson Sanchez if Tottenham get a double. But outside of that, I don't think I'll be looking at Spurs defenders.
Nope. The other interesting thing here, I mean, Dean is starting to creep up the list. He's only played 2 games for Villa now, but he's up to 29th. So the other games are obviously back when he was at Everton. But I'm expecting him to feature much higher up this list in the weeks to come. You also notice on this list, no Cancelo. He's not in the top 30 for expected goal involvement, non-penalty.
That is surprising.
Very surprising, right? You'd think he'd be one of the top.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Yeah.
But yeah, on Digne, obviously Target moved to Newcastle this transfer window as well, because you could argue, is there a chance that Target gets a game here and there? Probably not, but now definitely not. So Digne does look like a good pick. Certainly when Villa get those double game weeks as well.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I wasn't too worried about Target. I think it was the last Blackbox I had a look at Villa and just how poor they were down the left under Gerrard and how much Gerrard likes those fullbacks to bomb on. The Dean signing was. I'm just so surprised Everton let Dean go, and then sat Benitez like a week later. It still baffles. I just don't know what they're doing. They don't seem to have any plan really with anything they do.
It was a mockery, wasn't it? Because he signed, I forget his name. Is it Michaelenko to replace Digne? A Benitez signing. And then they sack him, and it was his signing. And now Lampard has to come in and deal with that.
Yeah,
hopefully he's the right player that Lampard wants. But
it's
a bit of a joke, that whole situation.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, Villa, their postponed fixtures look good. I just had a quick look, and they've got Burnley at home, Leeds away. So, decent double game week fixtures to come whenever those get rescheduled for Aston Villa.
Yep. I love Villa. I think jumping on Villa is something that a lot of people can do. I mean, Watkins up top, his underlying stats are good, but hasn't really sort of done it yet. But then with all the creativity he's got around, he's going to get so many chances in that side. You've got to think he's going to score. Buendia and Coutinho, you pick one of those. And you've got Dean, Cash. I mean, even someone like Martinez is looking great. Yeah, loads.
I'm really enjoying the some of the chat messages. People are asking, they love the outfit, love the suit. There's a few people that are asking why I'm in a suit, by the way. I promised Az that I'd do it because he said I look sharp in the suit in the thumbnail. So I'm a man of my word. That's why I'm in the suit. I
mean, you didn't need much encouragement, Oscar. Let's put it that way.
It's been a while since I dug the suit out. Any excuse?
Yeah, no, it's as I said, I feel like I should have dressed up a little bit.
For any audio listeners, I'm overdressed and Az is topless.
Yeah, and pantless. You wish.
We would never know.
You never know. No, always have to stand up. What are you drinking, by the way? Did you open a beer?
No, I'm on the Pepsi Max.
Oh,
I forgot to grab the vodka, otherwise I would have mixed that.
I'm on the
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
I'm on the whiskey, so yeah, cheers.
The whiskey. Very nice.
Cheers yourself, anyone else is listening. Right, midfield. So as I said, Son's in top, Bowen in second. I mean, incredible season he's having. We're going to talk about captains in a bit. He's surely kind of going to be in the consideration for that. Some of the players to mention. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is up to 9th. We talked about him. Martinelli, my mate, is in 10th for all midfielders, which 5.4. I think he's still someone who could have a big impact for us, even though he's got the blank sort of on the horizon. I'm definitely keeping him for the kind of short to medium term. He just looks so good every time I see him play. He's a fantastic talent, Marcel. You can see why they got rid of Aubameyang.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that no one came in to replace him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the whole saga about Isaac. Did you see that?
I knew they were debating a bid, but didn't they want like 70 million for him or something?
Yeah, but on the Arsenal subreddit, an Arsenal fan spotted a car with the number plate Isaac.
Okay.
But with a 5 for the S or something like that. So people were wondering if
near the Emirates?
Near the Emirates, yeah. And then people looked up the number plate, proper full detective mode. You know how it goes in the transfer windows. And the license plate had been registered in January this month, so everyone thought they cracked the code, and Isaac was on his way, but no, not at all.
It's probably the Kroenkes just they probably bought that license plate and drove it around town to make them think they were buying someone, and then didn't do it. It's just kind of thing they do.
There's probably some bloke called like Graham Isaac, who lives in Islington, and he's got in had a look on his phone and he's wondering what's
Yeah,
going on.
whoa. Why did DVLA contacted me this time? Oh, no fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, their transfer dealings were incredibly bizarre, weren't they? I mean, you know, what Arteta's got is a really young, exciting team who've been doing really well and massively exceeded my expectations, you know, compared to where they were at the start of the season. But you look at the depth of players, and you look at players like Xhaka getting a new contract, and you know what happens if you know Martinelli gets injured, which is a distinct possibility given that he's very injury prone. What happens if Lacazette gets injured?
Yeah.
Who the hell plays up top?
Exactly.
He's the only reckon. I mean, they've got Nketiah, haven't they? But his contract's expiring soon.
Yeah,
so
it was a very odd transfer window. Reportedly, we had an offer from Newcastle for Nketiah.
yeah,
And obviously didn't leave. Aubameyang gets his contract terminated. Apparently we even paid him to go.
really, yeah,
So a bit of a disastrous window. I really thought someone would come in.
Yeah.
Because quite a few left. So yeah, you talk about depth. There's definitely less depth for now. So
yeah.
there are a few injuries away from being in trouble, really. Kind of
Yeah.
similar to Liverpool last season.
Mm.
It was kind of their downfall. They got a few injuries to key players, and yeah, that was their downfall from there
I mean,
on.
it's interesting as well because I mean, the transfer window, Arsenal brought in quite a lot of players who people thought weren't ready for the first team. So Ramsdale was expected to be back up for Leno, for
Tomiyasu.
example. Tomiyasu was would he be ready? Odegaard came in, but then you had like Smith Rowe and you know Saka and players already there. Like you spent a lot of money on kind of fringe players, but now those players have come into the first team. You've got rid of other players who were in the first team, and now you need more fringe players because it's a strange cycle that's going on there.
Yeah, odd. I don't know what's going on with the recruitment. I think it's Eddie Gaspar who's in charge of the recruitment, but no, he's let the fans down this window, I have to say, and he'll be to blame if it's a poor end to the season.
Yeah.
Not that there's much we're competing for now. I think we've been knocked out of everything.
Top four, it's got to be on the cards, right? But
Yeah, it's just top four now. That's it. That's the target.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Other players on this list, so obviously Brighton have got double game week coming up. I think realistically, unless you're looking at defence, the only players to really look at are Trossard, who's in 17th, and McAllister. Personally, I wouldn't touch either of them. I just don't think we score enough goals. I don't trust either of them to score a goal. Gun to my head, I'd probably go for McAllister out of the two because he's been improving so much. But I don't really believe in either of them. But sandwiched between Trossard and McAllister is Jota, who we talked about. I mean, Jota, in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement, is below Lookman, Harrison, Mwepu, Rupp, Dan James. Like, you would think he would be soaring up this list of midfielders, but at the moment, it's just not really happening for him. You looking at getting Brighton midfielders, though? Looking at Trossard or McAllister?
No, there's not really room. It's two transfers before we hit the double, so I'm looking to bring in Bruno. That probably might be one of my moves. And I think maybe the second move will be a Brighton defender, maybe Cucurella. I know you said Lamptey, so maybe I'll reconsider. But I was looking at Cucurella very strongly, just for the assured minutes more than anything. And he's a bit of a BPS machine. But no, there's not really room for a Brighton mid. And like you said, Brighton aren't really scoring goals, so I don't think it's worth going there. A lot of people got lured in by Trossard, who blanked and then he was benched, wasn't he? So I think if I was going for either, it'd probably be McAllister because he's cheap enough where you can bench him if you need to. But the fixtures aren't too bad beyond the double. But yeah, I don't think the goals are there to justify it. I think the transfer's probably better saved for if we get a double game week in 26 or used on another player.
I agree. I think Brighton are the classic double game week trap where you're gonna get him and then you're gonna be stuck with him, especially if you're wildcarding and bringing in one of those players. It's just a hard avoid for me. Okay, let's move over to forwards. So forwards this season have toiled really. Edouard and Kane are first and second. We've talked about them kind of enough. Watkins is then in sixth. So he's not performing FPL wise at all. I mean, he's a goal conversion of 8.3%, which is really poor. Pretty much the worst of all the players that are playing regularly. But like I said, I think if you're wildcarding, I would definitely go with Watkins in my side, given the fixtures and the doubles that you mentioned. Any plans for Watkins?
Not at the moment. I do feel like we'll get an announcement at some point soon for a double game week 26, and it could be Villa that goes there. There was speculation that they would get a double game week 24, but it ended up just Watford and Burnley, obviously. But yeah, I'm one of those managers who's got a bit of a hangover with the Watford forwards. I'm stuck with Dennis and King, so I'm definitely looking to move one of them on. Maybe it'd be for Watkins, but we'll see. It depends on the double game weeks really. Right now, I'm just looking at 25. That's kind of where I'm engineering my moves towards. But yeah, Watkins, good option if you're on a wild card. I agree.
I think so. I think he's the kind of player who you're looking at his returns and thinking, okay, they're not really here. But we saw him last season get, upwards of 15 goals. He's now playing. I think they've now finally replaced that creativity they were looking for Grealish, and it's just the underlying stats attacking wise for Villa aren't amazing, but there is an upward trajectory, like you said. And I think it's only going to benefit Watkins. I think Ings is an interesting one because I just can't see how that's going to work with him in the side. I don't think Gerrard's going to play two up top. That's not what he's done historically. Yeah. And he can't bench Watkins because of the energy he brings to the side. So I think it's going to be Ings coming on as an impact
yeah,
sub.
He looks like he'll be an impact sub this season. I wonder how the new Burnley striker will do. Is it Weghorst? Probably butchered the pronunciation.
Almost certainly, yeah.
But he's got a good goal scoring record. This season, I don't think particularly, but last season, I think he was an absolute goal machine for Wolfsburg. So it could be an interesting one. They've got 4 postponed fixtures.
Yeah.
Could become an option.
I wondered how they were going to replace Chris Wood, and they've replaced Chris Wood with Chris Wood, German Chris Wood. It looks like he looks, tailor-made for that Burnley side.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I suppose he'll play against Watford, won't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Saturday.
Yeah, I imagine he's straight in. I think there was a joke that he's almost certainly going to outscore all the Watford strikers despite signing after the bloody first game. Be typical. Elsewhere on this list, you've got Cristiano Ronaldo in 11th. So again, I mean, quite far down for someone like him. Below like Lacazette, Mateta, Chris Wood. You want to see Ronaldo kind of high on this list, especially with the double game week coming up. I think this is what I mean. I mean, Kane is so high up on this list now that I want to be making that switch from Ronaldo to Kane as soon as possible. But it's just really hard to do with that double game week. But I do wonder if he's gonna regret that. Very good point from Theodore. Weghorst is of course Dutch, not German. Came from the German league. So I'm getting confused. I think it's like Weghorst. I'm not going to try and do a Dutch accent. Laugh off the plane. Calvert-Lewin, 21st. You've got Calvert-Lewin, haven't you?
I do, yeah. I brought him in for the double game week, and obviously the second of his double got postponed, and he missed the penalty. So that was a good -4, that one.
Against Brighton as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite enjoyed that.
Couldn't believe that. Yeah.
130 minutes per big chance is right up there. I mean, it's up there with like Ronaldo. I mean, Edouard is getting a minutes per big chance every 62.8 minutes at the moment, which is like massively beyond kind of anyone else in the league. But Calvert-Lewin is getting the chances. You've got to think Lampard is going to get the best out of him. He seems a Lampard type player, and he's brought in the creativity with Van der Beek and Ali, hopefully, to unlock him. So I think he's a good pick actually going forward.
Yeah, the fixtures aren't bad. I really wasn't spotted in training, but it's quite early before game week 24, so hopefully nothing to worry about there. But I agree, yeah, I think Lampard could get the best out of him. He started the season so strongly. I think he scored in all of his opening 3 games, and then he got the long-term injury. So I'm hoping he can get back to that form.
Yeah. Yep. Good point from Nahel Kukani that Weghorst has already outscored Dennis, despite not signing. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
very good point. Very good point. Final player I want to mention in the forwards, because it can't be a black box without me talking about Neil Maupay. To get Neil Maupay, you've got to go down to 29th on the list. So he's below Joe Linton over the last 4, which I think kind of says it all. What is so amazing about Maupay isn't the fact that he's got a minutes per expected goal of 480.6 and he plays pretty much every game for us. It's the fact that his minutes per big chance is 0. He has not had...
He's had none.
He's had none. He's like the only player who's played significant minutes as a forward to not have a big chance. And a conversion of 0%.
So you wouldn't recommend him then for the double game week, Maupay?
I would say there's 28 other players on this list that I would have over Neil Maupay. And
just goes to show that, doesn't it? Because in his last 4, he's got 3 assists.
Yeah.
But the numbers are awful. He's not actually... I suppose, it's big O for performance in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely awful for him. I mean, a minutes per shot of every 59.6 minutes, which isn't even too bad, but just the fact he hasn't had a big chance. I mean, they can't even create anything for him, which is a massive concern with Brighton, because if you can't create... I mean, all jokes about Neil Maupay aside, if you can't create chances for your main striker, like how are you going to score goals? And it's just our problem week on week on week is scoring goals. And conceding stupid ones as well.
Yeah, well, you signed that striker, didn't you? But then he's gone out on loan straight away.
Yeah, I think he's quite...
So he's stuck with Mopai.
Yeah, stuck with Mopai. Welbeck's back. I think we're going to see him play a bit more, but Potter loves Mopai, so I can't see him being dropped. Okay, that's all the stats done. Let's just take a look at our predictions. So thanks to FPL Pot Noodle for doing these every week. Mark and I are having a shocking... this is Game Week 14, but it's not. It's Game Week 23. We're having a shocking time predicting. I've got... Well, no, so I say that. I've got... Hang on, has this been updated? Have I done this right? Newcastle v Norwich? Newcastle didn't play Norwich, did they? No, I haven't done this right. Hold on. Let me change this. You got a bit of live editing. There we go. Let's just change this one as well. Maybe this one's done. There you go. Nice. I'm sure I did those, but apparently they haven't updated. Yeah, we are having a shocking time. 30% outcomes for me, 20% for Mark. It's because I looked at it and I was like, there's no way I got 60% of my outcomes right this time.
No, I remember you saying you had a shocker.
Yeah.
Not 23 that looks right now.
Yeah, that's right. 10% scores, 50% of my clean sheets right. But yeah, anyway, I'm beating Mark across all outcomes. That's the most important thing to take from this. We're both...
So just one of you got the score bang on for 23.
That's right. Yeah, which was the Liverpool game. Yeah, 3-1. I mean, they're just blind luck, to be honest. They're getting the actual scores. Shows how hard they are. You know, people who play like the Fives game on what's it called on Sky? That one where you got to get all the scores right.
Yeah.
God, they're so hard to do. I mean, I've got 8.7%. Mark's got 8.2% on those.
Right.
Both around the 50% mark for outcomes, which is kind of our target. But let's take a look at our predictions for this week. So, first game is Newcastle v Everton. Interesting game. Newcastle, all their signings. Everton with all their new signings and new manager. I've gone for a 2-1 Newcastle. So has Mark. You've gone for a 1-1.
I have, yeah.
Nice and safe.
Graphic to update on screen. Yeah, I went for 1-1 Newcastle Everton. Nice and safe, yeah. Pretty boring prediction, but I think when you look at these sides, Newcastle, Everton, West Ham, Watford as well, I went 1-0. You know, these teams are desperate for goals. They need to get the results, so... I just can't see them going down and not scoring. So, yeah, I've backed a draw for both of those games.
I just think, looking at the signings Newcastle have made, I think they're a much stronger side. And I look at the signings Everton have made and the manager they've got, and I'm just not entirely convinced anything fits. And I could be completely wrong. Lampard could go on a crazy run. He could unlock Ali and Van der Beek, got some players in their hands. But I do think all three of those signings are a huge gamble for Everton. And if they lose this game to Newcastle, I think they could be in big, big trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, interestingly, you and Mark have both gone for a West Ham clean sheet.
Yeah.
I just don't trust the West Ham defence this season.
Nor do I.
As soon as the double game week was over, I totally regretted bringing in Dawson.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think Hodgson coming in does reduce King and Dennis's appeal. I think both of them are sells now.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. So I've gone for 2-0. Mark's gone for 1-0. You've gone for 1-1. My thoughts are that Hodgson is going to have to tighten up Watford. Like, it's obvious. Like, he's very good at doing that. But with that should come a bit of a blunting of the attack, which I think West Ham will capitalise on. I just don't think he's going to have had enough time working with the squad to tighten them up. He's a good manager to bring in. I mean, he's come out of retirement, hasn't he, to take this job?
Yeah, I think he'd retired. But yeah, the offer must have come across his inbox, and he thought, I can't resist getting back into the game.
Well, and he's probably going to get a massive payout in about 3 months' time as well. So it's kind of the perfect job in football, isn't it? Really, you get a multi-million-pound payoff, and no one really expects you to last in the job for very long anyway. So
I wonder if he'll steady the ship, but it's going to be boring football.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he definitely will be. And it's a shame because they've got players who, like Dennis, like Sarr, Pedro, I think looks really good. They've obviously got really good attacking players, but there's no point in having good attacking players when you can see the amount of goals that they do. So, got to tighten them up. Burnley United, I've gone for 3-0 United. You've gone for 2-0 and Mark's gone for 2-1. So we're all back in the United win. I mean, they were so good against them when they played them, only a few weeks ago. I just can't see Burnley getting anything from this.
No, me neither. I mean, Mark's backed Burnley to get 1, but still to lose.
Yeah. I wouldn't surprise me.
I've gone for 2-0, you've gone for 3. Yeah, I think Man United win, it has to be.
It's the one game where United have played well under Ranić, I think, since I've seen them since he signed. They looked really, really good in that game, and Burnley let them play football, which is what they do quite a lot of the time. And I think, given the space they'll have, they should win this fairly comfortably. City Brentford, don't think you need to spend too long on this one. I've gone for 2-0. You and Mark have both gone for 3-0. Should be pretty routine.
Yeah.
Brentford have been poor lately. Man City are relentless. Good result for Southampton against them, but I can't see Brentford putting up too many trees in this. Interesting one here, Norwich v Palace. Norwich on a fairly decent run lately. I've still back to 1-0 Palace. You've gone for a 2-0 Palace. Mark's gone for a 1-all. I wouldn't be too surprised for an upset here if Norwich got... Well, I wouldn't be too surprised if Norwich won this game, actually. Been playing quite well lately.
Yeah,
Ida looks good.
Me. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about Hodgson. I think Vieira's come in and done a great job so far, and they look better, more exciting. So, I don't know. I think Norwich still go down, even though he has turned them around to a degree, Smith. But, I can't see past the Palace win, personally.
No, and Edouard, I think, being bought by a lot of people, maybe even more so off the back of tonight, given his stats are so good. Spurs Southampton, I've gone for a 1-0. You and Oscar, you and Mark have both gone for a 2-1. I'm back in the Spurs defence in this. I don't think Southampton score a huge amount of goals. I think the break will have done Spurs good as well. Not an easy game, though, for Spurs. Southampton have been really impressive, I think.
Yeah, they have been. Again, I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if Spurs are able to shut out Southampton, keep a clean sheet there. But interesting, Mark's also gone for 2-1.
Yep, and you've both gone for the same... Sorry?
I was going to say, I saw Livramento's back in training.
Yeah, my boy.
Yeah, I've still got him. I've never had the chance to get rid of him, so I've still got Timo.
Me neither. I need him.
Yeah,
I need
good
him.
to see him back.
Yeah, I've got bloody Ben Johnson. So
I
was right down to bare bones with Livramento out. So yeah, it's quite nice to have him back as a bit of a safety net.
Yeah.
You and Mark have agreed on the next game as well, which is Villa v Leeds. You've gone for a 1-1. Mark's gone for a 2-2. So both gone for the draw. I've gone for a 2-1 Villa. I think Villa will be disappointed if they don't win this game at home with the signings they've made. Rafinha's so good, so good, but there's still injuries at Leeds, and yeah, I don't know. I would be surprised if Villa didn't win this game actually.
Yeah, I fancy Leeds to score. I mean, we all do, all three of us. None of us are backed Villa to keep a clean sheet. So it wouldn't surprise me. You know, I know a lot of people have picked up Digne, but no, I fancy Leeds to score. But yeah, the pressure's on for Leeds as well. I don't think they made any signings or any notable signings this window.
No.
So they're another team with the pressure on. It looked like they turned it around, but then they lost, I think, last game week. So it's a big game for Leeds. They really need to get a win there, really. Or I think they take a draw as well.
I'm very surprised they didn't sign anyone in the window, given how big a miss Bamford's been for them, the defensive problems they've had. I would have thought they'd have got a couple more recruits in, but that's what Bielsa does. He likes a small squad. I don't think he doesn't want to bring in players who won't play, you know, sort of going forward in the future and have a bigger squad. So, you know, they kind of but if they don't stay up, then he'll have a lot to answer for not strengthening, I think.
Yeah. It's a gamble.
Yeah,
definitely
it is.
A gamble, because we've seen earlier in the season they played against City, you know, and they had like a 16-year-old on the bench. So it is a gamble, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I think Leeds might be one of those that go down. Maybe Norwich. I'm not sure who the third would be. Maybe Watford.
A few people in the chat saying Rafinha came off injured for Brazil. I mean, that is not good for Leeds if he's going to be out for any period of time. Because
that definitely won't be good.
My God, do they need him? Liverpool Leicester next. I've gone for 2-1. I've backed a Leicester goal. I'll be 2-1. Maybe I should have gone for more, looking at these defensive numbers and how poor they've been. But still no Salah. He could be back.
Well,
but I'd be surprised if he was back. I'd be surprised
I'd
be surprised if he started.
If they win the whole thing, I would fully expect him to miss it, because he'll probably want to celebrate with the team and so on. The African Cup of Nations finals on the 6th of February, and then obviously the playoff for 3rd and 4th is also on the 6th. So
they've moved it now. I think they've pushed it back a day, the third place. So it's
7th.
So it's not on the same day. No, I think
a day earlier. Or a day
I think
later.
it's a day earlier. I think it's on the 5th.
Oh, okay.
I think.
So yeah, I don't know. I think there's still a chance. I mean, this season, Salah's playing midweek every Champions League game, and then you play on the weekend in the Premier League. So I don't think it's out of the question that he's back for Game Week 24. Hopefully, Klopp gives us a good idea.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to know. We're going to know if he's been given an extended break or what. But yeah, if they get to the final and then he's lining up at against Leicester 4 days later, it's a hell of a turn. You got to think he's going to miss, or at least be benched in a game sort of coming up. And the final game of the week is Wolves v Arsenal, which, I mean, any game with Wolves is pretty boring, to be honest, given they create so few chances. I found this one quite tough to predict. I think it's just whether Arsenal can break them down because they're so good defensively. I've gone for a 1-0 Arsenal. You've gone for a 2-0 Arsenal, so you've backed them to get 2 against them, and Mark's just gone for a nice and boring 1-1. 2-0 Arsenal. That's quite a prediction.
Might be a little bit of Arsenal bias creeping in there. But
you're quite down on them earlier, so I'm quite surprised.
Yeah, I always have to back them when I'm doing predictions, even if it's totally wrong. With Wolves, it's easy to predict that they don't score, going off the data. So I'd like to think they don't, especially as a Ramsdale owner. I do plan to start him over De Gea. But I don't know. I back an Arsenal win there. I'll take a 1-0, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I bet you would. Be a good result if you go to the Molineux and get a win there. So it's not an easy place for any team to go at the moment. Excellent. So that's our predictions for next week. Captain Matrix. So I've updated this. I think this game week 24 is really, really, really exciting. It's maybe the last week for a while in which we kind of have some choice over who to captain. Because game week 25, it's probably going to be a United player, given they've got the double. In 26, it's Salah. I've got it versus Norwich, but it's more likely going to be Norwich and Leeds. That's all being confirmed. And then in 26, it's Liverpool blank, and United play Watford. So
who have you got the armband on at the moment for 24?
Well, this is it. I mean, just to read out some of the names on this list. So the ones that I've earmarked as kind of the key captains are Salah, if he's back, Bowen v Watford, Ronaldo v Burnley, or KDV versus Brentford. But then in our kind of like other column, which is kind of the more sort of left field picks, you've got Kane and Son against Southampton, Antonio versus Watford, you've got Jota and Trent against Leicester, Foden against Brentford, and Cancelo as well. So there's
arguably
plenty of choice.
Left field. There's no good options, to be honest.
No, they're not.
I think it's going to be a good spread again, this game of captaincy, which is exciting, like you said, because if you get it right, there's a lot of upside there to flow up the ranks.
Yeah, I'm on Bowen at the moment.
Yeah.
The only thing that's putting me off a little bit is the Hodgson effect. But Bowen has been so good. West Ham attack is good, and Watford defence has been so poor that it's kind of hard to go against him. What do you reckon? I'm guessing you've got it earmarked for Salah.
Yeah, I've got it earmarked for Salah if there's any indication that he's back for the game. If he's not, then probably I'll go for Bowen. Might be tempted by Trent. I mean, when you're going for your captain, obviously you look for the upside, and it's so easy to overlook defenders because you think, oh, if they concede, that's it. But this season Trent's got, I think, 6 or 7 double-digit returns, which is exactly what you want. But we always seem to overlook Trent for captaincy, despite time and time again he shows us that he's a good option. You
haven't mentioned Jota, and you've got him. Not tempted? Because I'm not.
No, not tempted. The data you showed suggested the same.
Oh God! Don't do it because of my data. Oh God, I'll never forgive myself if he gets a hat trick.
Yeah, I'll back your data. It looks like good data. Yeah, and obviously we're talking about the effect of Salah and Mane's absence, and they may be back just in time. But again,
the only caveat to my data is Leicester are the worst team defensively of all teams. So even though Jota's data isn't the best, he is playing statistically the worst team. So I'm certainly not saying he's a bad option. I don't really like owning him, if I'm being completely honest. I just find him boring. He always underdelivers. Really? He always underdelivers on his promise. He's been poor for us when we've needed him to step up with Salah and Mane out. Everyone's got him.
Yeah,
he's just a bit dull, isn't he?
He's not really consistent enough, and you hit the halls when you don't consider him, and I think there's better options this game week. Yep.
Apologies, I've got 2 game week 26s on the chart. One of them is, of course, game week 27 at the bottom. There's always an eagle-eyed person in the chat, isn't there, who spots something that you've done wrong.
Good spot.
Very good spot. Let's just take a quick look at some captain's data then. So I've had a look at the top options, so Bowen, Salah, Ronaldo and KDB. So looking at stats-wise, Bowen and Salah are leagues ahead of Ronaldo and KDB. Bowen's actually top. 120.8 minutes per expected goal involvement over the last 4, compared to Salah's 121.1, so barely anything in it. But the fact there's barely anything in it between a West Ham midfielder and Mohamed Salah, I think shows how amazing Bowen's been for us this season. Looking at the season data as well, Watford are statistically the worst team defensively out of the 4, out of Burnley, Leicester, Brentford, Watford, 56.8. Minutes per expected goal conceded. Burnley next with 58.4. So again, stats point to Bowen there. Over the last 4 though, it's Leicester with the worst. They are the worst team in the league, 54.4, and then it's Brentford. So they've dropped off massively. So Man City, options are a factor, and then it's Watford, and then it's Burnley. I mean, Watford haven't improved massively over the last 4 compared to this season data. It's not like they're suddenly like an amazing defensive side. Their stats are still bad. It's just other teams are doing worse than them over the last 4. So this data does push me towards Bowen a little bit more. But yeah, I think Leicester are getting some players back now, and I'd expect to see their defensive stats start improving. But it's a really interesting captain's debate this week. I think there's going to be lots of teams, lots of players.
It's a make or break game week for the Salah holders, I have to say. It was bad enough when Bruno went on to Hull. Be even worse if Salah's not back for this one. So I've only got myself to blame if he's not back for it.
Oh, that would be brutal. Yeah, and then Fernandes hits a brace against Burnley, and oh, that's not even joke about it. Goes, isn't it? That's not even joke about it. Okay, let's have a look at our teams then. So this is the world number 26's team going into the next round of games. It's Rams. Well, I'll let you read it out. Do you want to read out your team?
So I've got Ramsdale in goal. In defence, I've got Trent, Cancelo and Dawson. My midfield is Jota, Bowen, Rafinha, Salah captain and Gray. And then up top, I've got Josh King and Calvert-Lewin. I've got Dennis on the bench straight after bringing him in, so that was a disaster class of a move. I've still got Alonso as well, so he's a problem with the 3 blanks in the next 4. And of course I've got Livramento, but I wouldn't be looking to play him against Tottenham or Man United after that. Maybe in 26 if they get a double, because they've got Everton and the other postponed fixture is Newcastle. So maybe Livramento becomes an option again to start in a couple of game weeks. That'd be nice.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
In terms of transfer plans, at the moment I've got exact money to do Rafinha to Bruno, but I don't want to do it early. It would just be ridiculous if I made the early move and then something happened. So I'm probably going to just get priced out of that because I think Bruno's so close to a price rise.
He's been close for bloody ages.
Every night he's hovering around 99, 100%. But he's not gone up yet, but I think he will before the deadline. So, I think what I'll probably do instead is roll the transfer, as boring as that is. I could sell Alonso for someone like Digne, but then I'd have... 2 players playing against each other, so I'm not sure if I want to do that either, unless Rafinha's out, of course.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What if Rafinha's a doubt or injured and Fernandes does go up and you can't afford him? Would you take a hit for him?
Yeah, I'd be very tempted to do something like Alonso to Digne, Rafinha to Bruno for a -4. I think that would be a justified -4 because I think Villa's chances of a clean sheet would be more.
Does taking a hit at your position feel weirder because you can, I don't know, when you've got like 25 people ahead of you, each hit you take takes you further down.
100%. I've looked at the points difference, and there's others that are tied on points, so you take a -4, you're already on a red arrow. Not a huge one, but I could be down like 10 spots before the game started. So perhaps that puts me off taking hits a bit more as well. So it's the same at every rank, you're more conscious of it, I suppose.
Yeah, because I guess when I talk to like Simon March and people, they say, and Mark does it as well. He kind of treats this as a bit of a mini league when you're kind of at this level. So Mark has like the people he looks at, and he's always trying to get ahead of them. I think that would be my temptation. Would be I'd probably have like a spreadsheet up of all the players, all the top 20. I'd go way overboard.
Would you? Yeah.
I probably would. It's interesting to know that you're not doing that. Yeah, I bet you have.
I'm scared of paralysis by over-analysis, if I'm honest. But I was talking to Simon the other day because obviously he did win FPL. And he said the same thing. He sees people in the top 100 as kind of like a mini league. So you start to see the names. Obviously, there's Gangsters Allardyce. He's having a sensational season. He said, there'd be the odd manager who would take a crazy punt. Like his season when he won it, there was a manager who went captain Martin Skirtle, and he got a brace that game.
Oh my God!
So you get the odd manager here and there that will pop up, pop down. But I'm kind of just listening to what people like Simon are saying because it's. I'll never ever have a season as good as this, so got to take the opportunity.
It's finding that balance of like really wanting to go for it and then bringing in different players so you can kind of try and climb up the rank, but also kind of holding what you've got and trying not to drop down too much. It's obviously I'm envious of your position, but I think I'd be having sleepless nights. Yeah.
I'm enjoying it while it lasts anyway because, by far my best season I've had. So
Yeah.
just enjoying the ride, whatever happens from here.
Yeah.
I've got the screenshot for when I was first, so I'll take that.
Yeah,
and frame it.
absolutely. Yeah. For my team, I'm feeling quite confident actually, which is normally not a very good sign. De Gea in
record
goal.
that. Clip that.
Yeah, I know, it's always the way. De Gea, Trent, Cancelo, and Dean. So I've got Dean in place early, which is nice because I haven't got to be moving for him. I've got Fernandes, who you're looking at, Foden, Jota, Bowen, Martinelli, Ronaldo, and Antonio. I'm pretty happy with that. Ramsdale, King, Livramento, and Johnson on the bench. So I'm actually looking to hold.
Yeah, you look really well set up. I have to say, actually.
Yeah, looking to.
This is where this is where we say that and it all goes wrong. Cancelo finally gets his bench in.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's all going to go wrong. I hate it when my team looks strong because it never performs how you think it's going to. But I mean, I've had a few people ask me if I'm going to wildcard and stuff. But if I was wildcarding, I think I'd probably have 9 of these players in my side anyway. So
exactly.
Yeah, not looking to do it now.
Good.
Yeah, not much more to say. Probably going to be a rubbish week, but. Team on paper at least looks quite good. Mark's in trouble though. Ramsdale in goal, Trent, Reguilon, Cancelo captain he's got currently. Bowen, Jota, Martinelli, Foden, Dennis, Ronaldo, Antonio. To be fair, I say he's in trouble. His 11's not too bad. But then on his bench he's got Guaita, Diop, Alonso, and Mount. So he hasn't got a bench at all because Diop has lost his place.
I was surprised that he brought Mount in.
So was I.
When I saw he made that move.
Yeah, so
I've
was I.
got Mark bookmarked. I like to watch what moves he makes.
Yeah.
How sad as that is. And I was really surprised when he brought Mount. Obviously he had the double game week, but then he had the blanks on the horizon. So I was very surprised by that move.
Swayed by the double game week. Like that is kind of a definition. It was quite an unmark-like move. Normally he plans, too far ahead. He sees things that we can't see a lot of the time. I was surprised that he moved for Mount.
Obviously, the thinking was no one had him or was looking at him, so there was high upside, but very unfortunate. I didn't expect the benching either. No, me neither. I mean, to be fair, I think that's a bit harsh. I think Mark's team actually does look pretty good if Reguilon comes back into the side and Dennis will be back. Yeah,
I mean,
imagine he will.
Yeah, his plan is to move Alonso for Laporte and have the double City defence. So I imagine it would be one of Dennis or Martinelli that gets benched in this side, but no plans of Mark to wildcard either. And again, I don't really know who he would get. Cool, that's our teams then and transfers. Blackbox League. You're the first person we've ever had in here who's in the top 10 of the Blackbox League.
Oh, really?
You're in 5th. It's 4 people ahead of you in the Blackbox League.
Am I?
Yeah.
Wow, stacked league.
I know, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Congratulations to James Twiddy, Paul Lewis, Tor Ivan Pedersen, James S, and Stephen Egan. You must recognise some of those names because they're all on the top page, like you, on the FPL.
I recognise a couple.
On the FPL site. And then below you, there is Steve Sedman, Will Baxter, Ruben Jeeva, and Joachim Lengroth. If you want to join the league, the code's at the bottom of the screen, VJNG38. But it's amazing to have, for you to be 26th and to be 5th on this list, it shows the quality of
must be one of the top leagues in the world.
We sort
of the average of the top 5.
We fluctuate. We're sometimes on the top 5, sometimes top. I just want to be ahead of Let's Talk. That's all I want. But he's got everyone. Everyone listens.
It's not possible.
Everyone listens to bloody Let's Talk. Apprentice League. It's getting a little bit embarrassing now. I'm over 100 points ahead of Mark. 122 points ahead of Mark now. Surely I see this through to the end of the season, but
surely
you never know.
Surely,
he's battling out with Natalie. Actually, Natalie's my apprentice. She's on 1356, so she's
24
behind him. Yeah,
right.
And then interesting, Henry is really struggling. He's 90 points behind Natalie. He's used all his chips as well. So This was the kind of experiment that we did. Was obviously Natalie's looking at all the stats and Henry's just doing the eye test, just going with it. I think it just shows official FPL that a complete newcomer to the game, they either need a bit more direction with what to do, when to use the chips, not to waste them all, or the thing that I push every bloody year, first half of the chips and second half of the year chips. Because for someone like Henry, he's blown all of his chips early. He's screwed for the second half of the season. At least if you know you're going to get those chips refreshed. The whole point of them is to keep people engaged. So
there's a whole strategy side. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So has Natalie actually been looking at things like XG and
absolutely
XGI and whatnot?
Yeah, she's a member of Fantasy Football Scout. She has her own little spreadsheets. She's on Twitter as well, talking to people. Really, really involved in it.
Because they did add it was like influence, creativity, threat, ICT index. And all
ICT.
That, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't know how that corresponds to things like XG and whatnot, but I suppose they did that to kind of cater to.
They did. Well, Mark was largely responsible for that when he was.
Was he? Okay. Yeah.
When he was doing.
So I suppose that was to cater towards newer players that didn't want to jump straight into things like Scout just yet.
Yeah.
Like a gateway thing.
Yeah, it kind of is. But I think it shows that there's still. I mean, obviously, it's only one example, but I mean, Henry's really into football, for example, but he's struggling with the kind of, like you say, the more strategic side of the game. And that's where I think FPL can do a bit more. Because, I mean, Natalie didn't know anything about football, but she's been invested in Twitter and sort of doing her research, and she's competing, right? She's like 350k or something like that, which is an amazing, for a first season. Is really, really strong. So there's definitely a gap that I think that FPL can kind of look to address a little bit more. Let's take a quick look at the ticker. So Manchester United are top. Amazing 4 game weeks for them. Burnley, then the double, Southampton, Brighton, then Leeds, and then Watford. So it's hard to move off players like Ronaldo and Fernandes because they've got such good games. Next is Villa, Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, Brighton, Southampton. Brilliant 5 games for them. That's why I got Dean in early, and I think moving for Watkins, Coutinho, Buendia, very wise. Brighton have got the blank, but then they've got a good run. They've got double, Watford United, and then Burnley, Villa, and Newcastle. So might be good to invest in them. I think defence is probably the way to go, but it could take a few punts. Bottom of the ticker is Chelsea. Obviously, they missed 3 of the next 5 games. Then Leicester. So with their poor defensive numbers, they've got a tough run. They've got Liverpool, West Ham, Wolves, and then a blank, and then Leeds. And Arsenal right down there as well because they've got 2 blanks with Wolves, Brentford, and Watford. So Brentford and Watford are obviously good, but they've got the blank kind of sandwiched in.
What's your plan with Martinelli?
Yeah, what's my plan with Martinelli? I mean, he's a hold for me, really, as long as I can bench him. But it's going to be one of him or King. I'm going to have to play. Be interested to see what Hodgson does in that first game. I mean, I could move King to Broja, who I like the look of, but then the fixtures aren't amazing in the short term for Southampton. Or I could move Martinelli. How's this? Could move Martinelli to Cornet. And just try and tap into those fixtures they've got to be rearranged.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Admittedly, I've not looked at Cornet much. I've overlooked him. I know he's been in and out of the team. I think he had a couple of injuries. And
awful stats. Awful.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh,
but
yeah.
He's been doing fairly well.
Yeah,
when he has
wonder
played.
Goals. Yeah, lots of wonder goals. But, I mean, it's just like buying extra tickets to a raffle, isn't it? You've got so many opportunities with him to get points, given the amount of games he's gone. It's just, can he stay fit? I mean, you could look at someone like McNeil, but then it's like, oh, God.
I was about to say, I remember, I think it was last season, or the season before, when Andy got hacked, and he brought in McNeil on a bench boost, and he got
smashed
brace.
it. Yeah.
That's a big roll of the dice. That's a roll of 100-sided dice if you get
really
someone like McNeil in.
It really is. The problem with Burnley is they're right down the bottom of the ticker. They've got United, Liverpool, Brighton, Palace, Chelsea. 5 really, really tough games, especially from an attacking point of view, because that's 5 like good defensive side. Well, United aren't really, but you expect them to be. And then Liverpool, Brighton, Palace, and Chelsea. So it's hard to justify. He just seems like a bit of a fun pick who I don't have to play very often, but when he's got a double game week, comes in. But I'd be reluctant to sell him Martinelli. I'll probably keep him, to be honest.
Yeah, he's cheap enough that you can probably get by.
Yep, agreed. The final thing before we finish, just another mention of the Green Arrow, the FPL Challenge. This is something that Mark and I donate to each week. Whenever we get a Green Arrow, we donate £5 to this charity. If you want to get involved, there's links in the description. You don't have to donate £5. You can donate as little as 65p, and all your money goes to feeding starving people around the world. Really nice charity set up by FPL Greece. Really, really good to be involved in that. So if you're interested, just check out the links in the description below. Oscar, first black box. We're under 2 hours, which is a miracle on these things. Thank you so much.
1 hour 50.
1 hour 50, yeah.
Bad.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I've enjoyed it.
The suit jacket came off. You're a bit more casual looking now.
That was such a mistake. I thought it'd be funny to put a suit on, but it was so hot so quickly.
It's always bad when you do the like for Halloween and Christmas and stuff. Like obviously you wear like a bit of fancy dress. And you think, oh, this is really good. This is really fun. And then you do like half an hour. And you're like, oh, I'm absolutely melting.
Yeah, what have I done? Yeah.
Oh, perfect. We've got just under 1,000 people watching. If you could all like the stream, that would be amazing. Subscribe to the channel as well. And if you've enjoyed listening to Mr. Oscar, Mr. at FPL Focal, be sure to check out his channel as well. Although you've got like 3 times the amount of subscribers as us, so don't go mad. But if you want to check him out, then you can. No, what I love about Oscar's channel is that it's very different to a lot of the other stuff out there. You do a lot of like looking back, like you did the Messi. I watched the Messi video the other day, which I think you did last year. But how many points he would have scored if he'd been in FPL in his best ever season? It's just absolutely ludicrous. Like he would have got like what was it, like 400 points or something? Yeah,
he would have got 450 odd points. Yeah, I think there's an appetite for some original content.
Yeah, there is.
That, on top of the game weeks that we face. So yeah, thanks for the plug. Appreciate that.
No problem at all. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you very soon.